We good, Lacey?
Okay, here's the
Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so I will call the meeting to order. Let's see here. Can everyone stand for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alicia, could you please do a roll call for us?
Lori Galargin. Here. Ian McDonald.
Here.
Matt Foucault.
Here.
Lacey Oster.
Here.
Bruce Galargin.
Here.
Cherie Lane. Here. Marge Wolf.
Okay, our district mission, together we engage, educate, and empower all learners, bridging their passions to pathways to create successful futures and positively contribute to our local and global communities. Is there a motion to approve our agenda tonight?
I'll make a motion to amend the agenda to add the enrollment report.
Is there, thank you. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Let's make a quick comment. So policy-wise, 2414, I think we should, there is some change that need to be made to this one. I had some questions that Lori had brought up, so I don't know if we want to amend the agenda to remove that and bring it back, or just do that at policy time, whatever is most appropriate. We didn't get a chance to address Lori's concerns about it, and I think it's only fair that we do that and bring it back. So however that needs to happen.
So I think we can keep it on the agenda, discuss it at that time, but then put it on our next agenda to approve or
Okay.
deny. So all in favor of the motion that Ian made? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I did not receive any requests for open forum to speak. Shannon, did you?
I did not.
get any, or do you-
Anybody here?
Would you like to speak? Awesome.
I could.
Okay, so if you wanna come, do you feel comfortable going to the podium?
That's fine.
Awesome. And do you guys have his name from
No.
earlier?
No.
Do you
There's
have
a
a
red
form?
card behind you.
There you go.
Thank you. You can fill it out later, probably.
Okay.
So you'll have, 3 minutes is our policy.
Okay.
So awesome. Go ahead.
Two questions, kind of three. You got an election coming up here in a week and a half or whatever. So I got a question. The last referendum that we had a few years ago, did you guys get an extra $1 million a year, every year above and beyond the regular budget from that referendum? And what did you guys do with the $192,000 or $196,000 you got with the COVID money? Is what my two questions are.
Do you want to, so really with the open forum, we kind of listen and we can always respond back at another time, but it's more so the format where we're listening to you.
Okay, well, that's the questions I had, so if I can't get answers on them, then it reflects on how my vote's gonna be then.
We do get $1 million, so I guess you can jump in and Dave's here.
Yeah, can
We'll
Dave
take the
talk
3
to it?
minutes. I mean, we get $1 million every year, or that was added on to the operations budget, correct, Dave?
I missed the first part. Is this the operational question?
Yep.
Yep.
We got an extra $1 million.
Above and beyond what you would regularly get from the taxes, right?
That was added on to district revenue to be used for operations, and had that not occurred, we would have had to make cuts. So that is fully utilized with the operation of the school district. And your second question about the COVID money, the ESSER funds, those also were designated by the state to fill the gaps for anything we need to operate the school district. They didn't give any school districts additional revenue for the state biennial. They said use the COVID ESSER funds. So that's what we've been doing. It's for operations only. No increases or changes really, what we used in the last one this year.
Okay, no, you get that. So that $1 million, was that put into what, how am I supposed to put it? I know like the state has it where you can get a certain percentage of everybody's taxes. So is that above and beyond what that percentage is then every year?
It's, the levy is set through the revenue limit
Yep.
mechanism. And so that increases the amount of the total revenue limit by that amount. And because of the formula itself, we didn't actually increase by $1 million, it was less than that, because we had slightly declining enrollment, so the formula actually decreased the amount that we could increase in total. But the revenue limit is split between equalization aid and levy. And so if aid from the state goes up, then the levy goes down proportionally and vice versa. So yes, overall, it's the revenue that, the main revenue that the district accumulates to operate the given year.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Didn't mean to cut you off, that's just how the format is.
No,
And
no, no.
we can circle back to it a little bit during our listening session, because I know you were here during the listening session as well. Okay, moving on, we'll go to our reports. So, girls, you can start with the student school board representatives presentation. Thanks for coming back again this month.
Yes. Yeah, we can do it again. Okay, all right, high school sports. So, football had their last game on October 14th. Their season ended on a loss against Osceola. The football's record was 3-6. Girls golf went to state on October 3rd and 4th, with Ava Pache taking 7th at state out of 40. Mondi Belarjan made it to sectionals. Boys soccer is officially on the playoffs, making the #1 seed for Division 4. The soccer team also won all conference this year and this past Saturday became the first team to win the regional championship in SHS history. Volleyball was seeded 6th in the playoffs and beat Amory first round of playoffs. Somerset traveled to Ashland and lost in 4 sets, which ends the season with a overall record of 22-11. Okay, so this is a picture from the last football game. And then this is a picture of NHS setting up for homecoming, for the homecoming dance. And then that's Powder Puff during homecoming. That's the student section for the homecoming football game. And then that's all of the high schoolers who dressed up for one of the Spirit Days, which was Adam Sandler. And then This is the picture the boys took after becoming the regional champs. They went into, I think, 2 overtimes.
Yeah, 2 overtimes.
And then went into a shootout.
Yeah.
Yes. The homecoming kickoff, we started with all school assembly district through elementary and high school. We had a lot of good feedback, and we've gotten more recommended to continue joining in all schools. And this is the pep band, elementary. This was a game, all staff, some staff got nominated to play, and they did Hungry Hungry Hippo. And then this is the middle school and high school side of trying to do a contest of who could be the loudest.
And then this is some pictures from the homecoming parade. That's me during the parade. That's the senior float. And then there is, what float is that? Just one?
That's the Coliseum.
Okay, that's Coliseum. There's the live stream. And then some of the elementary schoolers. Another float, just all the floats. The fishing team did a boat float. That was pretty cool.
On Friday, we had only a high school one for us, and then they played Powder Puff. The junior class, the 2024 class, won for the 2nd year, and the seniors took 2nd, which was a really good game to play. Student council held a tailgate party on Friday before the football game. We had a great turnout for everyone. And this picture is Wallen having a dance battle with Mr. Newman, and then Ms. Donnelly joined in. And then this is some of the homecoming court minus a couple of the football players. Who are we missing in that?
I'm not sure actually.
Sorry. And then there's another picture of Wallen and Newman, and then just the crowd from the whole high school.
Okay, some high school updates. So we celebrated the academic awards night last Wednesday, which it went from like 4.0
got an award, and then 3.75 and 3.5, depending what grade you were in, got an award, and then your letters. It was based on the grades from second semester last year. That's cool. And then 48 students went to the Build My Future event at St. Croix County Fairgrounds with Mr. Olson and Mr. Herring, where students had the opportunity to visit and participate in different fields in the trades and get hands-on experience with different companies and exposure to different majors at local technical colleges. More updates is the AP Psych students took a trip to the U of M and got to feel what it's like to be in a lecture at the U of M, and then boys and girls basketball is starting this week. Some middle school updates are 7th grade had a courage retreat this month and learned to encourage and stand up for others. Fall sports are officially over for the middle schoolers, and boys basketball started last week. The volleyball tournament for middle school lunches has also officially ended with amazing teamwork and sportsmanship from all teams. And then 5th and 6th graders had an amazing opportunity in joining the girls varsity volleyball team on standing with them on the sidelines during warm-ups and having their own reserved seating at the game. Some shout-outs from the middle school is they're recognizing all the 7th grade staff who was at the Courage Retreat for being so engaged with the students and make sure all the students had fun. And then high schoolers who also went down for the Courage Retreat helped the students feel more comfortable in joining with activities. And then a huge shout out to the 6th grade volleyball winners and the runner-up for having outstanding sportsmanship while also being competitive. Some elementary school updates is they really focused on parent-teacher conferences. They spent all month preparing and it turned out very well. Every kid and teacher in the school went in on a collaborative art project to bring the school together and just kind of tie everybody together. They celebrated Fire Prevention Month by bringing in firefighters to teach stop, drop, and roll and just see inside all the fire trucks and learn about all the different equipment and like how long it takes to put on the equipment, and then different safety things like your smoke detectors and what you should do during a fire. And then October 19th was Unity Day, where the school talked about acceptance and including others. And then Student Council is currently funding for the American Cancer Society Relay for Life, and they are selling luminaries. And then Monday, 31st, Halloween, kids get to wear their costumes to school, and they'll do like a little walking parade where they'll walk through the high school and middle school, and then they'll also walk outside so any parents that want to watch that can see. Oh, and then here's some pictures from that. There's the fire truck, and then there is the art project that they all did. Staff are at the bottom, like the roots, and then the kids are growing from the tree. And then here, they also had a book fair, which is down here. And then this is some kids that are part of Student Council. All right. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Okay, moving on to our listening session summary. I believe Cherie and Lori were here during that time. We can maybe.
We didn't have anybody?
Oh,
come
okay.
in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood that because I was thinking that.
Thank you.
Okay, our superintendent's report.
Okay, sorry, I was talking to the girls. All right. I just have two quick things. So I reattached my proposed goals. They've been in my update the last 2 weekends as well. Hoping that tonight, if there was any other suggested edits, questions, comments, I'm hoping to be able to kind of say that those are finalized at this point. So, open to hear any feedback. I didn't receive any emails or any questions over the last 2 weeks since the last meeting, but questions, comments?
I noticed in your weekly update that you said something about meeting with the other principals and directors as well about their goals
Yes.
for the year.
Yep.
And I was wondering if that might be made public as well. I don't know if it can or not, but being the leaders of each of the buildings and in their areas.
Sure.
I thought it was something the community would want to know about. And I'm looking forward to hearing about the evidence of progress for student achievement.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So with that, any other questions? Because I thought I didn't receive any questions as well, because I know that you had asked to reach out to me as well, so. I think they look great,
All right. I'm hearing we're good to go. Okay.
good to go.
And I think part of when Dr. Pritzel comes in November, I've asked him for part of that work then to make sure before he leaves here and working with you that we've got a good plan in terms of a tool to use for evaluation. This was kind of step one, and then having that ongoing dialogue of how do we then together kind of work on monitoring my progress as well. So I would like to suggest that it doesn't have to happen today, but that we come up with at least 3 to 4 kind of predictable dates that we have more of a formal kind of review of my goals and where I bring you the evidence that we're talking about and just be able to kind of give you a more formal update. Whether that's open or closed session, makes no difference to me, but I'd like to be able to kind of put that out there publicly too. I can send it, in my updates, some ideas that I have, but, looking at kind of quarterly, I get we're a little bit behind right now, but, December, February, April, something like that, just so that it's not at the end of the year, we're coming together for the first time. So just something to put on your radar. Nothing has to be decided tonight, but just to kind of think about next steps for that too. Perfect. The only other thing I had was just giving a brief referendum update. All households should have received a mailer last week. I had heard from some people that they did receive it, the same people that didn't receive the survey. So I think we maybe have that figured out, which is good. I attended 2 more community meetings last week as well. I was able to speak at the winter sports meeting at the high school, and then I attended the village board meeting as well. Tomorrow night is our second and final informational community meeting at 6:30 at the high school, so I continue to encourage people to attend if they've got questions, and again, just to hear a little bit more in-depth information about the projects, etc. And then we'll have one more just kind of mini mailer going out late next week, which is just basically a postcard, again, reminding people just to vote. So tail end here, it's coming fast. So it feels like just 2 seconds ago we were talking about, oh, we have a couple months, and now it's just a couple days, so.
At this informational session coming up, last time, Dave was there and Vaughn was there from the Wold Architects, and somebody was there from Market Johnson, the construction company also. Will they all be there again?
They'll all be back.
And there were a lot of people who had questions at the first one, and those questions were addressed by the experts in each of the fields. So I strongly encourage you to come to that tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you.
6:30 at the high school. Perfect. Okay.
What one is the high school now? It's not the one I went to.
Oh. The building right across the parking lot, right here. Yeah. So those were the 2 things that I had. Thank you.
Okay, on to our financial reports. Do you have anything to add to that, Dave, or questions with those financial reports?
I know Lori had a question, but I addressed via email with information saying we're going to be working on quite a lot for the upcoming budget, and in anticipation of the upcoming state biennial budget as well, having different scenarios available to move forward with, depending on that outcome.
So there's a lot of what-ifs
Yes.
to be determined and then
Yes.
communicated.
And based on that timing, we're gonna have a couple different plans. It's not, I don't anticipate that we'll know in time to just move forward with one plan, knowing what's gonna happen.
So Dave, can you tell us basically the percentages of splits on one of your reports on the district website? There is a document that shows what has been happening with the state portion of financing and how that affects the portion of our funds that comes from local taxpayers. It's in that December 21-22 newsletter or something like that, I think is the title of it.
I put out a newsletter I publish on the website every year, breaking down the budget and the tax impacts and by municipality and all of that information with some of these bigger picture charts and visuals that show trend over the years, and I think that's what you're referring to. And just generally, the revenue limit, which is the source of the majority of district revenues, is dictated by the state in each biennial budget. And it's comprised of levy and equalization aid. And so the approach that the legislature prefers, I think, is to increase the equalization aid whenever they increase the per pupil amount that's within the calculation for revenue limit, because that will offset then any levy that might be generated from increasing the per pupil amount. So anytime that they want to give districts the ability to increase their revenue, they try to offset it by increasing the equalization aid portion within the revenue limit so that the levy stays flat. So I know that that is one of the proposals that's been out there, but it's too early to know, where that's going to end up.
And in the past, when funding has been sent to non-public schools, how does that affect public schools?
Well, it reduces the pie a little bit.
So it reduces the amount of our equalization aid.
A little bit overall, but also if we have students attending some choice schools, we have to reimburse that through our aid, so it reduces it on a couple different ways. But for us, we haven't had that big of an impact student-wise. And it is now many millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, but also the overall aid is over $5 billion, I believe, so it's part of it.
Okay. Any other questions with that? The enrollment report is linked on the digital agenda. Any questions or comments or anything to add with our enrollment report that was linked? Okay. So moving on to advanced operations. First is the McGrath proposals and the non-teacher salary schedule and compensation update. The memo is linked to our agenda, and we can move into specialty lane to stipend discussion, or if there's anything, Shannon or Dave, that you'd like to add to that.
I didn't receive any questions, so, you know, I'm happy to obviously answer any that there are. I know we have Leslie here too to help answer questions about Kids Club, if there's something specific there. She'll be a good resource for that. So I guess maybe let's just start with kind of 4A, if there's anything there that people have questions about. You know, I mean.
Yeah, I have some questions on the salary schedule. I'm wondering where, you know, I think I know where they're supposed to be, but I don't see them on the salary schedule. Where are I don't see the school age care aides.
Can we talk? So they are called program leaders. SKC program leaders and SKC site leads.
Okay,
And the language is being changed so that it mirrors licensing.
okay. And what about crossing guards?
That's not
Also on one
us,
floor.
but
And then currently, we don't have any, I don't believe we have any non-employee
Right.
crossing guards, but if we were, they would be on 104.
So that, shouldn't crossing guards be listed there?
Yeah, if it's not there, it'll be added.
Okay. And were the computer lab aid and the library aid combined then into an LMC aid?
I don't know if they have their titles changed this year, but that's everything that was 102 and 103 is 104.
Okay, I'm just going through what was crossed out, and I was looking for them in 104, and some of them I couldn't find.
No positions are eliminated, if that's what you're asking.
But the crossing guard's on there, but we don't actually have a crossing guard, but it was on the pay schedule. Because
The position
the person,
exists,
the
right.
position is filled currently by an aide at the school, not an actual position for a crossing guard.
All of those positions exist. There's a number that are unfilled even in other pay grades. So the intent is anything that's crossed out would be moved up.
So then crossing guard will be added there? Okay. And then I had some questions about the HR change. It seems like it's a pretty significant change, and there hasn't been a lot of information provided to the board. We had this position before the board not that long ago. I think it was in September 2019, where we changed a position from a pay grade of 108 to 110. And now we're talking about changing it from pay grade 110 to a new one of 113. And in none of the discussions has there been any information about job descriptions, what the job entails, what the prerequisites are. When I'm looking at, what we started out with a position that was between about 46,000 and 60,000, and now we're talking about 73,000 to 95,000. That is a significant increase, and I think the board should have more information before we.
Didn't you say 2 weeks ago that there is no change to what we currently have? It was just a retitling to get us in line with where we should be? Wasn't that what that discussion was?
McGrath felt strongly, Victoria felt strongly, that we did not compare to neighboring districts nor other public entities. And that was the nature of our request to her, was to compare, us versus other districts or other employers that may hire the same positions or have the same positions that we could compare to. And so that was one where she said, we were both understaffed in number and compensation didn't match the area for the jobs that were being done. There is an additional component of authority that we're talking about with this manager position, so that there's not kind of a middleman situation where if a principal or somebody has a question, it can be answered and dealt with without them having to go to another level to get the response and have it flow back through. There's a certain amount of authority that this position would need to operate well, to function well for the district. And Victoria still says that we will remain understaffed, but much of this work is already being done beyond current job description. It's high level, and that is, it's something where we're trying to, through the McGrath study, address our areas where either we can't hire staff in the pay grade reductions, or we know that we have a significant deficit compared to our peers, and we don't want to lose our staff. We want to continue with our programming and our offering.
So should the job description be changed or updated to represent that, or is it already captured?
There's a couple tweaks that we have, again, related to the authority aspect, I would say primarily.
Mhm.
Shannon, do you have?
Is that out there already for us to see?
No.
Okay.
No. So I think, I agree with Dave. I think, this conversation has been kind of brewing pre-McGrath. Just knowing, that particular position, what that position has taken on, for a variety of reasons. One, I think many things coming out of the pandemic has changed HR for lots of reasons. And knowing what this position, pre-McGrath is doing, and then the vision that, yes, McGrath has kind of helped shape that, but the vision that we've seen for that position, and how that's changed, even from, like you said, from the last time it came in front of the board, because that position looks a lot different now than it did 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And also trying to shift a little bit, some of the tasks and things that others are doing, not only in this office, but at the building level, that are true HR tasks that are being done by others that, don't necessarily have that level of training and et cetera, that we want to kind of put into kind of this bucket for lots of reasons, because we're talking about some big things. We're talking licensing, we're talking legal consultations, we're talking personnel things, big things that, that in our opinion are things that need to be at a managerial level. Dave used the word authority. I mean, that's become kind of a big piece of this position. So, I don't know if that helps kind of answer your question a little bit, or if there's something that you would feel that would be more helpful. We're happy to do that. I think we don't waver in terms of the recommendation. Kind of seeing what that position has now kind of morphed into. This is a more appropriate category. So.
Well, it raises some more questions in my mind. I don't know what the other districts around us have for human resources. The only
Mhm.
one I know is Hudson, which is a much larger district.
Sure.
And their human resources person is an attorney who's licensed in the state of Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're talking about the authority and the responsibility of this position, I'm wondering if it should be posted, if it's a new position. And is the person we're talking about right now really qualified to take on these responsibilities? Do they have a degree in human resources? I don't know. And if we're talking about this much authority and this much responsibility, should we have someone with a degree or experience in human resources?
I support the two of you in your work. I think that you guys know the best handle on what this role is and what the requirements are and where we are. And if the two of you feel comfortable that this is where it needs to be, then I support that.
I guess I'd like to know the difference between the 110 human resource advisor and the 113. I guess in 110 is what we have right now, or where this person is right now. So I guess what the difference is between those two roles. I mean, I guess that makes sense to me.
Or even with that,
And
a
we
job
have what those
description
roles- yeah,
prior,
job
the
description, what
original
those
job
roles are.
description compared to now, the modified job description on what?
Or does Victoria have a job description of this role if we're moving them up significantly, I guess?
But you said you will have that. Correct, you need the action to make these changes, and then you said you have that, right? Or you will?
Well, we
Shannon said they
certainly would
don't.
if it was done, but we can also get that in advance,
Right.
finalized. I think in McGrath's report, she referenced, that you received, she referenced the manager versus the advisor that we currently have versus a specialist in the future. And I think she also was comparing at a higher level, the HR function where it's, the customers are the employees of the district, but also the position protects the district. There's a lot of risk management involved. And so it really is, it has becomes something that is important, more important every year, and COVID did bring a lot into play as far as concerns that employees had and concerns that the district had in regard to whether it be work comp or any other sort of insurance or benefit that came into play with that situation. But to answer your question, yeah, the job description will change somewhat, and especially in regards to authority, such that it can operate more efficiently.
And do the qualifications change with that job description at all, or do the qualifications remain the same?
I think, I can't remember who was here when we initially had the HR advisor position, but generally we do, and we will, we define a position. It's not defined by a person generally. And so if it's qualifications or experience or what have you, it's defined in the posting or in the job description. And the same thing that I said then applies now, in that we've had essentially now a 3 or 4 year interview process with the person doing the job. We've seen the experience, and the work done is exceptional. And so if this person was to leave, we would certainly look closely at the qualifications and say, what do you do in Hudson? What do you do in Richmond? You know, Hudson, you referenced a C-level employee. It's certainly, that's a big department in that district. I think that's what we do upon rehire, but we have seen very well the capabilities of this person. And so I feel like it's appropriate to say this has been proven here through our experience. But certainly on rehire, we would have the qualifications to try to achieve that same level of service.
Is this part of the increase in the memo? Is this on the 2 lines in there?
Are you talking about the memo that's linked?
Yeah.
Yes, there's the Fund 10 portion, which includes this,
Okay.
and then there's the Fund 80 portion, which is school age care.
Right. So that's all, that approval is included?
But even though they're doing all this work and they're doing an exceptional job, are you adding more to their job description? Or are we gonna find out what their real job description is, or?
The terminology will change so that, kind of as I said, that sometimes in the operation day-to-day, if an issue comes up, it may be something where I need to get involved or Shannon needs to get involved, essentially to either give permission or to help make sure the result plays out as it's intended. But that shouldn't be something that's always necessary. And that's not to say that we wouldn't collaborate and discuss situations that come up as appropriate, whether internally or with attorney if needed. But the authority is something that in many districts, this is, HR is the same level as any administrator, as a director of business services or director of curriculum instruction. And so this is kind of a step in that direction.
I think it would be nice for us to know the job description, but also the person who has the job, so that they know what they're supposed to be doing,
Certainly.
you know.
And if the job is changing, shouldn't it be posted? If this is a new position in our district, shouldn't it be posted?
I view it as a transition. Technically, this is a new title and a new pay grade, but we're also not proposing to refill the HR advisor or to create an HR specialist.
Right.
This is an expansion.
Yeah.
You're adding more responsibility to somebody already doing the job.
Yeah.
And their job description has changed, not in writing, but over the last 2-3 years with everything that's been going on. It has gradually changed, but hasn't been necessarily formalized in writing what that job description has been. So this had possible action. Is it possible, just from hearing the comments, that we put it on next agenda with an updated job description? Maybe the past job description compared to the new job description? I feel like that's what,
And I'd like to know what the district's our size with a comparable number of employees. What do they have for HR? You know, there's been many conversations over the years. Bruce, you might be the only one here who remembers them, that when we're adding staff, are they staff who have a direct impact with, are they people with their feet in the classrooms? You know, are we spending our money with people, on people who have their feet in the classrooms? Or are we adding more and more and more support administration type positions?
But this is what we paid McGrath for, right? This is what we paid them for. This is the recommendation. And I just want to note that, you know, me as a board member, I support the superintendent we hired. I support I support Dave in the role that he does and their recommendation here. And I think that me as a board member, I feel like we get a little in the weeds in terms of micromanaging the job description of an HR individual. That's my opinion. I support these two, and if they're here telling me that this is where we need to be because we hired a firm to do a study, to give us a recommendation, then I trust that what you're giving me is good information and that we're on track. I want that known, that's all.
And I hear you, and I agree, but I also think that if you're gonna be if you're gonna be a sergeant, we don't just put you as a sergeant and say nothing about a job description. There's a job description before you rolled into your new role.
But that's not what we're not saying. When we're giving you guys the okay to begin the process, right? Like you really can't begin this transition or decisions about job description until we give you the okay to let's go with what McGrath's recommendation is, correct? Isn't that where we're at tonight?
In my opinion, no. If we're going to be putting someone in a new position, we should know what the position is. And I do not view my role as a board member and paying attention to finances, especially when we're asking our community for several $1 million, micromanaging.
I hear you. I don't think that's not what I'm saying. And I think this is completely separate from any referendum. I mean, I view our finances very conservatively, but I want to fall back on the fact that we used this outside agency, and we have capable staff. That's what their roles here are, is to give us this recommendation. I mean, if it's a bad recommendation, then your job is there to give us a good recommendation. And I just want the two of you to know that I support you. And if you're going to sit here tonight and say, this is where we need to go because you've done work, then I support that. But if other board members want more information, I mean, we're a board, that's what we do. But I want the two of you to know that I support you and I appreciate the work you've done and the recommendation you brought to us.
Well, the other thing is that the HR person, to have a job description is protecting her also, because we were talking about evaluations earlier. If she doesn't know what she's supposed to be doing or everything that she's supposed to be doing, she knows her basic job, what she's doing, what she's been doing. But if she doesn't have those extra things in a job description, comes time for evaluation and they'll say, well, you haven't been doing any of this, we're not gonna give you a raise. You know, that protects, the job description protects her also. Her or him, but it protects them. You wouldn't go into work without a job description knowing what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do. They may think that, well, this was Dave's job, so I didn't do it. Well, that affects her pay scale also.
I understand that, but I mean, these guys, they're both confident that they'll establish that, right?
Well, that's all we're asking, is that they do a job description so we can see it. What's the difference between the old one and the new one? What new has been put on the plate?
Any other discussion with that? Ian, should we-
I agree with all of you.
But I guess last thing is, there may not necessarily be a whole lot new on this job description, right, Dave? I mean, this is a reclassification. This is saying, this is the role we had, we way underpaid, we need to rise, we need to increase the level. There may not be a whole lot extra and new coming. Maybe?
I mean, that part of it might be micromanaging, but I think the budgetary part of it is kind of our concern.
I'm looking at the $50,000 that we're adding
You need
to a
both.
budget that's already almost $500,000 or $500,000 over for next year.
24, right?
Yeah.
I understand that, but we're not paying the right amount to begin with.
And that's, again, like Ian said, I understand all of you, certainly what you're saying, and I think McGrath talking to us when it was just Shannon and I asking her to clarify positions that she's comparing, we got the impression, I think, that we're lucky to retain this individual at this current position. Because the work is somewhat fairly specialized, and it's very important to organizations, and more so every year. It's not just the service where in the past, maybe I would send an email or something, and now it's, full communication, but it's also protecting the district, which if you consider just attorney fees, this saves money in the long run if we're doing this appropriately.
I think maybe the other thing I can weigh in is that we didn't have this position, 4 years ago, we didn't have any HR, correct? So I think the difference is too, is, what I see is, we didn't have an HR position. We had this person at one line, and then I think we gave that person a raise shortly thereafter hiring, because they did get new additional qualifications, I think. And then now we're bumping it up again. In 4 years of a position being even created in a district, we go from what it was, a 108 or something, and we're jumping it up that quick. I mean, that's, I guess, my background too, is that it's been a couple quick progressions here. Granted, when someone's good, I want to keep them, and I've been there too, so I understand. I just...
Are we encroaching on what should be closed session?
Well, this really isn't about rewarding or paying more. I mean, this is about reclassifying the position. This isn't about just paying the person more money.
There's a big component of that where McGrath said you're not matching competitors.
And if the individual left, you'd have a very difficult time replacing the quality of work at this pay rate, at the current rate.
What we have is a known entity, and when you hire, you never know until you have someone get going on it. So, yeah, I assume.
But if the pay wasn't increased, if we stayed at the current, whatever is that one,
Stayed at
to
advisory.
try to replace and get the quality, you'd have a hard time.
I would agree with McGrath that the district is giving a good deal.
And with the McGrath, they said the pay-wise, but also said not just we need to pay this position more, but also said that that title and what that job entails as well is what's comparable to people in other districts around us.
Well, and McGrath's recommendation for preference was to have a dedicated HR per 100 employees, and we're a little over 200. She would recommend that we not only reclassify this, but hire an HR specialist as well, and we're not proposing that. But yes, we certainly don't want to lose what we have, and it would be hard to get back to where we are if we're not being competitive with our region.
So moving forward, Sheree, do you have any discussion, anything to add?
I agree with everybody, you know, from a business owner standpoint, yeah. Sometimes I just elevate people because they're doing the job and they're doing it right, and then I pay them accordingly because they've got added things, but yeah, I don't always update the job description right away either with it, yeah. But there's benefits to having that clear defined expectations.
Are we kind of meeting everyone's needs if we ask for this to be on next agenda and just request that that additional information be provided for, I think even just to give us more of a snapshot on how that position has kind of evolved for board members that haven't been on before and through that process. And I think just us doing our, yes, I agree, I respect your, as Matt was saying, your recommendation, but just doing our due diligence as a board to make sure that we have all the information that we need.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the elimination of pay grades 102 and 103 and have those positions moved to pay grade 104. With retroactive pay for this back to July 1st, correct? Is that what was in the proposal?
Well, that's correct, but I think that's, there's a little difference between the general fund recommendation and the kids club recommendation, because there's a few additional licensing and training placements that are different than just 102 and 103 and 104.
Is there a second to Lori's motion, or do you wanna?
So if you're saying just eliminate and move to 104, that doesn't capture the full recommendation of the kids club.
Well, there's not a heck of a lot on the agenda. So do you have a suggestion for what I should, how I should make my motion?
Well, if you're going to pull it out, I would say you could, if you approved of the kids club moves, you could do the Fund 81 now and wait for the Fund 10 one.
So I think I still make a motion to eliminate the positions that are in pay grade 102 and 103 and move them to 104, as well as the Fund 80 increase.
I think the kids club proposal as presented.
I make a motion to accept the kids club recommendation as presented.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Discussion.
We will move the rest of it then to the next meeting?
That we approve that portion now. And my discussion with, yeah, to move that, the other piece for more information on our next agenda. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
I just want to be clear so I get you guys what you're asking for.
Yep.
So you want, as more of a question, are you asking for current job description and then, I'll just say for lack of a better description, a new job description for the recommended HR role, right? And then you had mentioned kind of, is it a narrative or something of kind of the involvement, kind of like Bruce was saying, of we went from no HR to the, like, did I, okay, I just want
Well,
to
and
make
I
sure.
think even to piggyback on what Dave was saying, how that position is involved and what those
Right.
reasons,
Yep.
just
Yep.
support
Okay.
that.
Got it.
Thanks, Shannon.
Okay. Okay, moving on to board goals. We briefly talked about this at our last meeting. Thank you, if people had any more time, comments, things to think, if we want to take action and choose 2 or 3 of these tonight, or if we want to continue discussion around it. I know, Matt, last meeting you kind of said some of your top 3, and I don't think I wrote down what they were.
I was just reading that, and I'm like, what did I say? I feel like the policy piece, I don't know if we need a goal regarding policy, because I was looking at, isn't that listed right in our mission and values?
I think it definitely it is, because that's our job, but I think more so goals are like, how can we refine it, how can we make it better? That's what I mean, we do a lot of these things already, but what do we want to focus on? What are areas that we think that we can continue to revisit to keep making better? I think all of these are things we have to be doing, but are there areas that we want to focus on to, maybe have more discussions on, or specifically board development on?
I think I was with Matt on that one, this one comes out and when the policies are new and updated, we have to go through them anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's something we've been doing, and I think we just, I think it was the first, second, and fourth one is what I was looking at.
I think so too.
Mhm. I would agree as well. I think for continuing board development, we've started that process, so I think now to continue. We have a big strategic plan that's gonna be coming up, and new administration. I just put an asterisk next to that. Is there any other discussion or?
So the plan is then Dr. Pritzel will be back to help us dig into those 3 and actually establish the plan.
Okay?
I think 5 is important too. I think Shannon would appreciate it.
And
I think
But
last
that's kind
meeting, yeah, it plays into the first one.
Yeah.
And that's what we said,
And
it's
I
kind of,
think that's part of, like
Kind of like
legally,
the policy a little bit.
we have to do
to
that no
do
matter what. So it's, it almost goes without question that we have to do it. We can't really get around it.
How we do it.
Mhm.
which would be number 1, right? We could build it right into that.
Maybe we can kind of reword that just a little bit to kind of add in that wording.
Sure.
Any other discussion with that? So we really don't need action for that, what our goals are, do we? Unless if there's
Yes, there are goals.
more discussion. I mean, I think this is something that,
When we see him next time,
what was that?
then we talk to him next month.
Yeah. Not our next meeting, but the following meeting.
He's here for the actual meeting in a month from now,
Yep.
not 2 weeks.
He wasn't free for the November work session.
Okay. So moving on to our policy updates. Matt, I'll kind of let you.
Want me to talk?
Yeah.
So I sent everybody a couple emails over the last week, so I offered to, as I'm trying to get more versed in policy, I want to get as good as Lori eventually. I offered to Shannon that I would reach out to Chris to continue to work through really getting as deep as we can into this. So, of course, he was on vacation out of the country, and we finally connected on Friday. So you saw my emails last week that's why you didn't see any updates. The one that we didn't get to was 2414. There was some notes that we had here, and I didn't feel like it was capturing what Lori's true questions were. So that one I think needs more work because there's questions that we didn't address. I'll just kind of go through, you saw in my emails, 3122, 4122, drug-free workplace. We had a lot of discussion on that. Chris's stance on that one was that federal law and Wisconsin law still bans any type of marijuana THC. So even if someone had a prescription from Minnesota or another state that allows that, we should not allow it. Now he said, Should you work with that individual? Absolutely. With legal counsel, you should work with that employee to figure out a plan. But his recommendation was very strong in, don't change your wording in the policy, just deal with the circumstance if and when it arises. So he said districts across the state are not wavering on it. They're sitting strong that marijuana, THC is not allowed. So he said, I wouldn't change it, I'd leave it as is. Anybody have any questions on that? Does that capture what the questions were?
Uh-huh. And it does say in the policy that up to and including termination, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a definite. So I think that provides the leeway that Chris was talking about.
So you're okay with that one?
Well, I still have concerns, but yeah, I'm okay with.
Yeah, he was very strong on, you know, if an employee comes to you, because I think you really have to work with them. Get your attorney involved, work with them and figure out a plan, but don't change your policy because it might come up.
And I
Right,
think
could open a whole
Lacey
other floodgates.
brought it up last time too, about how this is an issue that's, it's not just us, it's affecting many businesses and public institutions.
Okay, let's see, there was a bunch of the grammatical ones. Did they address and fix everything?
Nope.
Which one did we miss?
In policy 1460, which is what's attached for 3160 and 4160, they still have a sentence twice. Freedom from tuberculosis in a communicable form is a condition of employment. I believe the one at the end of the policy is supposed to be stricken.
Second to last line.
So 1460 we're looking at?
Well, 3160 and 4160
Which are all 1460.
policies that are on the agenda, but what was attached was 1460.
Yep.
So you can see in green there, freedom from tuberculosis. And if you scroll down to the end of it, freedom from tuberculosis. So I believe that second one is supposed to be stricken.
Oh, I see, way down.
They just might
They
really
moved
want to
it.
emphasize that.
I don't
Really?
Right, it's the same sentence, just moved.
Yes.
You can delete.
But it wouldn't change necessarily the policy.
So I didn't have that on my notes. I don't know how I missed it, but that'd be why it's still there.
So really, it just needs to be taken out.
Okay?
And in policy 2210,
Yep.
if you go through all the letters A through R, and that first paragraph after it, it still says or designate. They crossed it out in the
Yeah,
second
the next
paragraph,
one.
but not the first one.
Okay?
And 2414 is being removed, and we're going to discuss that again next work session.
There is a duplicate sentence in that too that should be addressed as well. Sentence 5 is written twice.
In which one? 2414?
2414. So it's written in green and then it's written right directly below it again.
So can we just
And it's
give me the points that need to be addressed here one more time?
It's listed in multiple places, and so does our current policy.
But it's listed twice after 5.
So you're talking number 5. There's a duplicate sentence.
You're on 2414?
2414, that's what we're looking at, right?
Yep.
And then what other questions did you have, Lori, about
On
2414?
2414, I think
The
the
9140
easiest,
policy?
pardon me,
The 9140 policy, was that?
we're
The
talking.
advisory committee, right?
We don't have.
Yeah, so we were gonna strike that.
Yeah,
Yep, I have that.
but I think the easiest way to look at that policy is if you have the proposed one, the new one from Neola, and look at it compared to what our current policy is. There's a bunch of stuff taken out, and it seems to me to be kind of important stuff. And I'm wondering if it was like the other policy where it was scanned in wrong and some things were left out by accident perhaps, I don't know.
Okay. So we have a policy committee meeting on Wednesday, and we'll put them together. Okay, what else?
In 5410,
That was the criteria.
I think you maybe just wrote down wrong what I had said because I see he made that change. But what I had suggested was that it state, so yep, that big heading there, promotion from grade 4 to grade 5, that it state based on the following criteria and get rid of when the student meets.
Can it read the way it does?
Well, then you're saying that a student's going to meet some criteria, but in your A, B, and C, you don't say what the criteria is.
Well, we struck criteria though. We said a student shall be promoted from 4th to 5th when they meet the following.
And one of the following is a score on the 4th grade examination, but there's no score given.
Okay.
So if you just change it to when promoted from 4th grade to 5th grade, based on the following criteria.
Wouldn't we still need to know the score?
It's based,
Well,
this is what it's based on. It's
You can
based
also
on
have a
Based on this
parent
one.
that requests to not have their child take
Right,
the
there's,
test.
that's why there's A, B, and C.
Because it doesn't say A, B, or, like, I read that all 3 need to be met.
I do too. I read it as all 3 should be met.
It should be,
Would have to
or, it should be and or.
Or a student shall be promoted from 4th to 5th grade when considering,
Upon consideration of.
upon
or
consideration
something,
of
yeah.
the criteria,
Mhm.
because
Of the following criteria, but get rid of the part about
I would put
student
something
needs.
with considering, because you also look at students with IEPs that don't necessarily take the 4th grade test, you look at.
That clears it, on consideration of.
Consideration of the default.
Yeah.
And if you could add that language also to 8th and 9th grade, it's in 2 places.
Yeah, I know, we gotta get out of here.
I've never, literally have never heard that sound come out of my watch, ever.
You probably have to stand up.
Right? Stand
Your
over.
heart rate's too high.
There we go. Sorry about
Okay.
that.
What else?
That was all I had.
So on to 8450,
Thank you,
Hold on,
man.
what's-
the big one.
Thanks for that.
This is the last.
I have no
one?
questions.
Is that
figured if it does come up, we're gonna have the same darn discussion like you put in the email anyway. So, I think it's good, so thanks for just
Yeah, I
talking
thought
about
he
it.
worded it well, because
I don't have any problem leaving it as is.
Okay.
I agree.
I
Thanks
sent
for
an
double checking, but
email to Matt about that one because I didn't see some of us did not receive the email from Trevor until just late this afternoon. But upon reading the email from Trevor, it appears that he's talking about developing protocols, that we may develop protocols. And that wasn't the question. The question was, do we or do we not need to follow the law?
I think his last line, he just states to keep it as may.
And this policy really is in reference to statute regarding the health issues. It's not just about following general state statute. And I think like this is a perfect example with what just happened with the CDC advisory. With the language and the support that Trevor has here, if the state were to say COVID vaccine is mandatory for students, this would allow us the flexibility and ability to not accept that and not follow that. Where if it said shall, I think we could be stuck.
Right.
Well, it comes down to is a statute a law or not. That's the question that should have been asked Trevor.
All right, here's the problem I see with it. It's more of a constitutional issue. We all know the mandate that was issued a couple of years ago was later decided to not be constitutional. We all swore to support the Constitution of the United States and the state of Wisconsin. It falls on us, kind of.
But this doesn't say constitutional. It says
Well,
statute.
that just
So do we need to
exists.
change the word statute? No, because a statute is a law, and you can't just choose to follow a law or not. I mean, you can, but you may
But
end
was
up
the
in jail.
statute passed by
Yeah.
legislation?
Well, that's the difference between the statute and the mandate.
Right.
It went through, passed out of committee, both houses passed it, and the governor signed it, versus one politician with his legal team assuming he has authority to do something he may or may not.
I guess,
It's smaller government, bottom up, so this is where it's landing on us to make that decision.
I was worried about state funding. According to his recommendation, we do not risk state funding by the language using the word may. So that's what I was worried about before, so I'm fine with leaving may in there. That's what I was asking, so.
I think that his response went exactly what, I don't know, he says we could either develop future, if we go with May, it gives us that leeway, and if you come to a point where it would be changing our funding or something, then I think that's when we have that to fall back on using word May.
And I apologize, you guys saw that email late. I thought it went to everybody. I totally missed that. I just went to the policy committee. So as soon as Bruce asked about it, I forwarded it on the response from Trevor. So my apologies. I didn't look close enough.
Well, and we went back and forth about this last time, and I feel like we said, okay, what's our next step? And we asked Shannon her recommendation, she said, let's be safe, let's go to Trevor. We went to Trevor, we got his recommendation. I think we need to move forward with that.
So I'll make a motion to approve the policy updates as presented in CI 1 through 19, with the exception of number 8, as corrected in our discussion this evening.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, moving on, looking at our budget items. Dave, do you want to give us a brief overview or
Yeah, absolutely.
of the recommendations that are listed?
So there's three items, and they have to be addressed in that order. And this is the format that you see, at least the last few years. I've kind of summarized it so that it's clear what we're approving. And it's the numbers in yellow. So the top there, the original budget amount. Board adopts that budget. This is the final snapshot, as I said, in the weekend update, with our most current information. Most years, we will continue and keep this budget even if things change a little bit throughout the year, though we can amend it at any point during the year if we would like to, if something significant changes. And the thing we're specifically adopting is the expenditure budget. I have the revenue and then the fund balance and percentage there in comparison to where we were in June, just for your reference. And then we have the two levies, certifying the Fund 10 tax levy and saying the Fund 39 tax levy. And each of those also is a specific dollar amount. And the Fund 10 tax levy, again, we are utilizing the revenue limit to the full extent available. And the Fund 39 levy matches the financing plan that's been on the website from PMA.
Have you gotten any additional questions regarding? Any questions for Dave or discussion on this? And this is a possible action item. So would anyone like to make a motion?
Make a motion to approve 4D, 1, 2, and 3.
I'll second.
Do one at a
You
time.
gotta do,
right?
yeah,
Oh,
so
yeah,
just do
do
one.
it.
Each one has to be
Yeah.
individual and state the dollar amount.
Make a motion to approve 4D1, the amount of, she took it off the screen.
So sorry.
$20,703,235.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a motion for the next item listed?
I'll make a motion to approve agenda item 4D2, that the school board certify the Fund 10 tax levy in the amount of $7,005,392.
Is there a second? Bruce seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Is there a third
I will
motion?
make a motion to approve budget item D3 for the school, for the Fund 39 tax levy in the amount of $3,556,825.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to consenting our agenda, looking at our minutes, board bills, personnel update. Is there anybody who would like to make a motion to approve these? You could do it individually or all together.
I'll make a motion to approve 5A, 1 and 2, B1, C1 and 2.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
In the future, when we're talking about policy updates at the work session, it seems like the minutes don't have very much more than what the agenda does. So can we at least have something that designates policies that we discussed or that we had asked Shannon was going to, and then Matt ended up, whoever, going back and getting clarification from Chris, just so that we have a little bit more information in our minutes than on our agenda.
Could we maybe email Alicia to add something to the minutes that we want in there?
Only if you get them ahead of time.
Is it something that needs to be on our actual minutes, or could somebody like on our policy committee kind of take notes and maybe give notes in a separate format?
I would agree with that. I think somebody on the policy committee taking notes, because this was a perfect example when there was 12 policies that had, certain questions. And then it's a week or 2 weeks later, really, when Chris was back, trying to scramble and truly capture, what the thought or the conversation was at the time. It was actually really difficult. So I would agree, the three of us are on the committee, that one of us be the designated, take notes, so that we truly capture that.
Can we get a printed copy of everything in advance? Because that's probably the easiest way to be taking notes of things. We can note exactly where things are at.
Of the policies themselves?
Yeah,
Or-
that we're addressing for that month.
Well, and I know it's a lot of printing, but I know like Lori has requested it before, sometimes it is a lot, like with, I'm thinking the old school board way, when they'd have their big packet of things, and it's, I know it's a waste of paper and ink, but it's also tricky. It's
No, for sure.
a lot easier sometimes, I think, maybe when you do
Maybe
that.
maybe just one copy, really.
Well, or, if we have a written copy that, is on file, I can do Post-it notes on the side or whatnot, so I'm not writing on an original copy or whatever is going to help us,
Or
track
copies
it
to
and
share.
save trees
We
if
can
we
do
need to.
copies. Don't worry.
Yep.
We'll give you copies.
But my point was having some more detail to the minutes, not just, so that when, for example, Lacey said you can read the minutes in 10 minutes, rather than an hour and a half of watching a video. So if we want the minutes to have some reflection of what has happened in the meeting, it should be more than just a list of the agenda.
I guess my only,
my opinion.
my only concern would be, let's say Cherie is taking notes. And what Alicia hears and documents, what if she misses a point? I guess that'd be my only
Isn't this
thought.
going
I'm
exactly
not
kind of
talking
against our
about
previous
details,
discussion?
I'm just talking, indicate that there was discussion.
Oh, so 2414 needs corrections.
Or there was discussion on the following policies, and the policy committee will confer with Neola
Oh, okay.
and get back to us.
I think that's good.
What?
I think we can use Google Docs if we're gonna be taking minutes. Instead of printing. Live.
I'm just
like
worried
we
she's
used
gonna
to.
have to become a stenographer.
Well, I feel like this goes
How do you-
exactly against what we just decided at our last meeting. I believe it was just on our last agenda when we talked about how we want our agenda set up.
Well, I
And
think
now
what-
we were kind of on, okay, we have an outline, this is what we're doing, and now we're saying we're exactly not doing that.
I think, Lori, if I'm hearing you right, the example of 2414, if it's in the minutes that 2414 had an issue, it needs further examination, that's nothing more than that.
Right.
But yeah, so if I'm a week and a half later looking back, I can look at the minutes and go, okay, yeah, it was this one, this one, and this one.
Yeah, but you're not gonna remember exactly what it is, that's why
I
I
gotta go to
think
her.
Cherie wanted to have a copy so she could take notes on it. I'm not expecting that those detailed notes would be included in the minutes.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think if there's follow-up on an item, I think it should be noted on here.
Certain one, but can we have somebody, so it's not Alicia having to get so detailed, can we have somebody, preferably maybe from the policy committee, be making notes to then
Oh,
make
yeah.
sure that we're helping
Absolutely.
Alicia with that, and then making sure that that's brought to the policy, because I just don't want that all to fall on
She can't.
Alicia. So it won't be in detail, right? Like, you don't want it in detail, like specifically this, but we want 3121 looked at, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we just got off topic with the discussion, so was there
There was this,
second for approving the minutes? Okay, that was, any other discussion with the motion on the table was to approve the minutes A12, B1, C12. Any further discussion with that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, looking ahead, our November 7th is our work session, which will begin at 6 o'clock, and then November 21st is our regular session with a listening session 30 minutes prior. And knowing that November 21st, Dr. Pritzel will be here as well. Okay, let's go ahead and do a once around the table. I can't remember where I started last time. Ian, do you want to start us out?
Certainly. I guess this last discussion got my head spinning a little bit. Is there a way, if you want something in the minutes, can you generalize what it is? Give it to Alicia, even if, I mean, it could be not specifically to policy, something else. But if you think you want it on the agenda, or not the minutes, to fill it out generally, short form, give it to her.
Well, I think we had also said it the last time, correct me if I'm wrong, that I would say, I would like this in the minutes to verbal, so then
Sure.
she knows that it's recorded,
Sure.
or to record it.
And then also to have the option of, after reading the minutes, because we don't get them until they're attached to an agenda quite a few weeks later, if there's something that you want added, to bring it up in the board meeting.
What was it?
Matt?
I don't have anything.
I have nothing, I just wanted to tack on with our, public comment and with referendum updates to feel free to reach out, attend to that community meeting tomorrow, or reach out to Shannon, so then we can make sure that we can, if there's any even little questions that aren't answered, give it to Dave or Bold or whoever it needs to go to, so. Bruce? Cherie?
Nothing.
Marge?
I just want to say congratulations to the boys soccer team for being regional champions. Very exciting. First time in history
Oh.
for here. Oh, there you go. Yeah. So why did you say that?
Lori?
November 1st, coming up next week, the Somerset Memorial Scholarship application opens online. And in relation to professional development, there is an advocacy workshop being put on at CISA on Tuesday, November 15th. It starts at 6 o'clock, and they are projecting that it'll be done at 8:30. And if we could get some people to go to that and have Alicia register us, that would be great.
What date?
It's Tuesday, November 15th.
I think, did I send an email about that too with some details?
I think you sent one about the regional.
The regional
meeting.
one, okay.
That's in
the one?
Menominee
Okay.
on Wednesday.
Or
And the one on the 15th is where at?
It's at Turtle Lake, CISA 11,
And the times are one more time.
6 o'clock to 8:30.
I can send a flyer to everyone if that's helpful tomorrow, just so you can all see it, if it's.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. This meeting is adjourned at 7:29.